Hi, this is Mark Littleton, the minister of the Word for the Athens Church of Christ, with today's 3-minute sermon. Yesterday we looked at what Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 5 to bondservants and how they need to behave toward their masters. And I said yesterday, it's wonderful that we don't have to deal with the blight of slavery and all of that in our nation any longer. And yet the principle of that passage is one we can apply to our relationship as employees to our employers. What's our attitude that we bring to work with us every day? Later in Ephesians 6, Paul then writes to masters, and he talks about how they need to behave toward their servants. And again, we can apply these principles to employers and how they deal with their employees. In Ephesians 6, beginning in verse 9, Paul says, "Masters, do the same to them, and stop your threatening, knowing that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven, and there's no partiality with him." Maybe today you are an employer. You are someone who has people under you. Maybe you are someone who is a manager of people in your work. How do you treat the people who are under you? Paul says we need to treat them the same way that we would want to be treated if we were in that position. Stop your threatening. Don't be a domineering person. Treat them with fairness. Treat them with kindness and compassion and honesty. Treat them the way you would want to be treated. Maybe today you're not a CEO and you don't really have people under you. And yet there's a sense in which when we drive up to the drive-through window at the fast food restaurant and we're dealing with that person who is there at that window for just a few seconds, there's a sense in which they are working for us. How do we treat that person? How do we treat the cashier at the grocery store? How do we interact with those people? Paul says you need to treat them the way you would want to be treated, because remember, both of you have a master who is in heaven, and he is the one that we are seeking to please. Lord willing, we'll see you again tomorrow for another 3-minute sermon. God bless.